Hello everyone, Dr. Mike here, TCOM 101. Hey, in the last video we talked about the rise of digital TV. Well, in this video we'll shift our attention to the world of audio and talk a lot about digital audio. Audio has changed a lot since the analog era of the 20th century, and the distribution of music has changed dramatically. Why? Because of the rise of the digital age and the internet and other forms of digital technology. Now, don't forget that old-fashioned legacy radio is still popular. AM and FM radio, still a powerful medium in the United States, reaches half the country's population daily. Most of this happens in the car and out of the home. Okay, in comparison, 75% are reached by TV, and social media reaches about 46% of the country's population every single day. So the radio still is a powerful medium. Now, the competition for over-the-air radio comes from online radio, and that's playing an increasing role in the radio market. About 61% of the U.S. population listens to online radio. And so that's a higher percentage than listen to traditional over-the-air AM and FM radio. But still, there is still an industry of AM and FM radio stations that provide localism, that deal with the needs of the local community. And as long as that's their focus, this idea of localism, really serving the interests and the needs of the local communities, then they still have a chance of succeeding. There are still 11,000 different radio stations in the United States of America. But let's turn our attention from over-the-air radio right now to new forms of radio in the 21st century, new forms of digital audio services or digital radio services. Now, there's really three forms of digital radio in America right now. There's satellite delivered. This is Sirius XM satellite radio. There's a new form of terrestrial delivered digital broadcasting that's being slowly rolled out across the country. That's something called HD radio. And then, of course, there are the internet-based music and audio services like Spotify and Pandora, which provide not only music, but a number of different podcasts as well. So first, let's talk about really the first form of digital radio, and that's satellite radio. A signal is sent up to a satellite and then bounced back down directly to primarily the automobile, but also the home or the office. So satellite radio, that's a nationwide radio service. Local radio, AM and FM, have small local coverage areas, but satellite radio has a national footprint, nationwide radio service. It's delivered by satellite directly to automobiles and homes that have a tiny little antenna to pick up the signal. So you know this as Sirius XM satellite radio, and they offer about 150 different channels of specialized programming. I think their biggest star for many years, and will continue for the future, will be Howard Stern, the shock jock, Howard Stern. All right, so satellite radio is delivered to us from a satellite. Now, the people who love satellite radio, the investors and the adopters, the people who subscribe to satellite radio, okay, they love satellite radio because it has great advantages over traditional AM and FM. For example, it has much better sound. It has digital sound, okay? Enhanced quality of reception, CD quality, all digital, crystal clear sound. Satellite radio also has this coast-to-coast coverage. You can pick a station and listen to it as you travel across the entire nation. Okay. It's also very specialized, 150 channels, which brings a lot of new, unique, and diverse programming, especially to rural areas of the country, out in the boondocks. Okay. Satellite radio gives people out in the rural areas all kinds of new channels to listen to, whereas they may currently have very limited terrestrial signal coverage. Okay, so hundreds of specialized channels. This is a great example of specialization. Satellite radio. Even though you can also get Sirius XM on your phone and through a streaming through the internet, the primary way it's delivered is directly from the satellite to the automobile. Now, the critics of satellite radio, and there are some, are worried about its impact. Okay? They say that it might, if it gets really popular, have a negative impact on the existing over-the-air FM radio service. I think that podcasting and streaming and Spotify pose much more of a challenge to existing AM and FM radio stations than satellite radio. But all of these other services cut into the market share of legacy traditional AM and FM radio. Now, let's say that streaming and satellite radio kill some of the local stations. Well, that causes a loss of community service, of localism. Our country has a highly decentralized political system. Most of the decisions that affect our everyday lives happen at the local level, whether we're talking about police, fire, roads, zoning, parks, schools. All of that is done at the local level. Okay, and that's where we need the most conversation, the highest number of voices, okay, so we can have a robust discussion about our communities. But we lose a little of that every time a local station dies. All right, so localism, I think, is still a very important concept. If you want to work in local AM and FM radio, you need to really understand localism. It might be the only thing that saves local radio with all of the competition it's facing now. And the FCC has really long required and supported the idea of localism. This is the idea that broadcasters are given a license, and in exchange for that license, they really need to care about and serve the needs and the interests of the communities to which they are licensed. Okay, so localism and a commitment to localism, I think, is really one of the main things that's going to keep local radio alive into the 21st century. All right, back to satellite radio. The first form of digital radio really started about 2001. And one of its advantages, I guess, is because you pay for it as a subscription service, it's uncensored. There's no FCC content regulations. You can drop the F-bomb on a satellite radio station. Now, in 1997, right at the end of the 20th century, two companies bid a bunch of money at a federal auction to get licenses to use a little bit of the spectrum to start offering these new satellite radio services. These companies eventually became XM satellite radio and Sirius satellite radio. At one time, there were two companies competing in the satellite radio marketplace. Satellite radio, really great if you drive for a living, if you're a long haul driver. The satellite radio is a great companion. Oh, by the way, satellite radio uses MPEG-4. That's the compression scheme that allows this company, Sirius XM Radio, to squeeze so many channels into a very limited, a small amount of bandwidth. All right. It takes two satellites, actually, two geosynchronous satellites to cover the entire continental United States with an audio signal. Now, this all started, satellite radio started about 20 years ago, 2001. That's when satellite radio service began. And most people first heard about it when they went to buy a new car. Car companies began embracing satellite radio. They said that's going to be the future of mobile audio entertainment. And when you go to a car dealership today, they still try and sell you satellite radio service. Now, these companies were struggling financially, and so they decided to get married in 2007 in an effort to maintain some financial viability. Both of these companies struggled to get subscribers and to make money. The startup costs were huge. So in 2007, they decided to hook up. They announced a plan to merge, to create, a new entity. Now, the new company has a monopoly in satellite radio, and we really don't like monopolies in the United States, but this company is called Sirius XM Radio, has more than 30 million subscribers, so it's one of the biggest radio companies in the country in terms of its subscriber base. But it is technically a monopoly. It's one company that owns a 100% share of the satellite radio marketplace. Now, why did the government approve this monopoly? Well, think about it. To have it stand back a little bit and look at the larger marketplace for audio. Okay, if you're a consumer, you can turn to a number of places. AM stations, FM stations, okay, the internet, streaming, internet radio, podcasting. You have a lot of options today in terms of audio and music and information. Okay, so satellite radio, yes, it's a monopoly in the satellite radio marketplace, but it's not a monopoly in the whole huge marketplace for audio entertainment. All right, and think about it. The company really, even though it's got a big subscriber base, it really has a tiny share of the home and car radio marketplace. Now, looking towards the future, SiriusXM made a big purchase in 2017. Okay, yes, it's racked up 32 million subscribers, which is a nice subscriber base. But of course, okay, it has to look towards the future. And what is the future in audio? Well, the future's already here. It's called streaming. So in 2018, SiriusXM bought Pandora, one of the first and most successful of the music streaming companies. And they shelled out $3.5 billion for this deal. So who owns Pandora? SiriusXM, satellite radio. All right, I think they see that the future is probably in streaming. Okay, and that satellite radio will always be kind of a small share of the audio marketplace. Now, let's talk about another form of digital broadcasting. Did you know that AM and FM radio stations are trying slowly to shift to a new form of digital delivery? Traditional AM and FM, of course, is an analog technology. Okay. But the industry, the radio industry, is slowly deploying a new terrestrial delivered digital radio service. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. The brand name is HD radio. No, it doesn't stand for high definition. It actually stands for something called hybrid digital. But HD radio. So HD radio is what the local stations are investing in to upgrade their AM and FM signals so they can shift them from analog to digital signals. And the digital signals are much better. Okay, the digital sound is a clear, more high fidelity sound. Now, HD radio is the technology picked by the FCC back in 2002 for radio stations to try and upgrade to digital broadcasting service in the United States. The rollout has been very slow. It's cool technology. It allows stations to simultaneously send out an analog and a digital signal on the same frequency. Okay, so they don't have to have a new frequency band for the new digital signal. Okay? It can be saddled onto the existing analog signal. And so you could simulcast both signals at the same time. And this is what most local stations do. Okay? So the HD radio technology lets the broadcasters transmit a really cool, high quality digital signal and an old-fashioned analog AM and FM signal at the same time. Now, if you bought the HD radio receiver, you get some excellent benefits. FM radio sounds really great, CD quality. Even AM radio, which is susceptible to a lot of interference and static, sounds really good. Okay. Plus, you can start to transmit additional data and information. It's called data casting, sending out more information about the station or the song or the artist. And you can increase the number of listening options because digital radio allows something called multicasting technology. So, they're trying to market HD radio for you to upgrade your mobile device, for you to purchase it for your new car, for your used car, for your home, your boat, or your entertainment center. But most of this, listening, if people are listening to HD radio, it's happening in the car. And HD radio is really a trademark, okay? It's a technology developed by a company, Ubiquity Digital Corporation, and it has the rights to sell this HD radio technology both to the stations and to the consumers who ultimately have to buy a receiver. So again, HD radio is cool because it allows stations to simulcast really good digital signals and their traditional analog signals right at the same time without changing to new frequency bands. A station might have 50 years of brand and identity in its location on the dial. They certainly don't want to change it. So, with HD radio, the current analog radios will continue to receive the analog portion of the AM or FM signal. And as the HD radio market reaches maturity, who knows when that will happen, broadcasters might eventually phase out the old analog signals and just go to an all digital mode. But don't expect that to happen soon because sales have not been great for HD radio receivers. They're not that expensive. But, digital radio we can compare to digital TV. In the case of digital TV, the FCC mandated the shift. Said it's going to happen on this date. And it did. But with digital radio, they backed off a little bit and said, let the marketplace decide. Let marketplace forces determine the future of HD radio. If consumers want it, then it will be successful. But they're not going to force the issue, the FCC. All right. HD radio has this one cool feature. It's called data casting. So they can push more text to your receiver's display. So the song artist, the title, the call letters, advertising information, traffic information, weather, sports, traffic, all kinds of stuff, stocks. Okay, well, cool, but in the car, I personally don't want more screen clutter and more distraction when I'm driving. But it is an advantage to be able to send people more data. All right, most of it will happen in the car. HD radio. Another advantage is multicasting. So an HD radio station, like a TV station, digital TV station, could chop up the digital signal, can subdivide it. So a station can multicast. It can broadcast 2 or more programs simultaneously. One station can become 2, 3, 4 stations. Okay? So you send out one bit stream. It can be divided into separate programming services. Okay? You can divide up the marketplace even more. Look at a station like WZPL FM in Indianapolis. Okay, it runs its FM station on analog technology, but they also offer Okay, 3 different HD radio broadcast services. Okay, 3 different channels featuring different kinds of content. Okay, so with digital radio, a radio station in Indianapolis went from 1 FM station to 3 FM stations. HD radio technology is not subscription. You don't pay for it. You have to buy a special receiver, but you don't have to pay a monthly subscription like you do to Spotify or to satellite radio. It's the same, really over-the-air free content we've always kind of expected from radio. Okay, so it's not satellite radio, it's not subscription, it's just an upgrade, an improvement to the existing terrestrial AM and FM radio stations. So radio stations in thousands of markets have licensed this technology and are using it, especially the larger markets. The problem is consumers have not rushed out to buy it. Adoption has been very, very slow. I think people have more things to worry about, maybe than upgrading their AM and FM radio signals. There's so many other cool technologies and options today, but so far it's been a flop in the marketplace. But don't rule it out. I mean, it may ultimately take over, okay? Current AM and FM radio, HD radio, may ultimately emerge, but not anytime soon. Okay, we've talked in this video about satellite delivered radio services. We've talked about upgrading the terrestrial delivered services to new digital forms. In the next video, we're going to spend a lot of time discussing internet delivered radio, all the cool new audio streaming services available to us through the internet. So we'll deal with that next time. Until then, you please take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you soon. So long, everyone.